The Wasp Factory. Chapter 7. Space Invaders. Before I realized the birds were my occasional allies, I used to do unkind things to them. Fish for them, shoot them, tie them to stakes at low tide, put electrically detonated bombs under their nests, and so on. My favorite game was capturing two using bait and a net, then tying them together. Usually they were gulls, and I tied thick orange nylon fishing line to each leg, then sat on a dune and watched. Sometimes I would have a gull and crow, but whether they were the same species or not, they quickly found out that they couldn't fly properly. Though the twine was long enough, in theory, and ended up, after a few hilariously clumsy aerobatics, fighting. With one dead, though the survivor, usually injured, wasn't really any better off, attached to a heavy corpse instead of a live opponent. I have seen a couple of determined ones peck the leg off their defeated adversary, but most were unable or didn't think of it and got caught by the rats during the night. I had other games, but that one always struck me as one of my more mature inventions, symbolic somehow, and with a nice blend of callousness and irony. One of the birds shat on gravel as I pedaled up the path to town on Tuesday morning. I stopped, glared up at the wheeling gulls and a couple of thrushes, then got some grass and wiped the yellow-white mess off the front guard. It was a bright, sunny day, and a light breeze blew. The forecast for the next few days was good, and I hoped the fine weather held for Eric's arrival. I met Jamie in the lounge bar of the Caldame Arms for lunch, and we sat playing an electronic game over a TV table. If he's that crazy, I don't know why they haven't caught him yet, Jamie said. I've told you, he's crazy, but he's very cunning. He's not stupid. He was always very bright right from the start. He was reading early and getting all his relations and uncles and aunts to say, "Oh, they're old. They're old, so young these days," and things like that before I was even born. But he is insane all the same. That's what they say, but I don't know. What about the dogs and the maggots? Okay, that looks pretty crazy, I'll admit, but sometimes I think maybe he's up to something. Maybe he's not really crazy after all. Perhaps he just got fed up acting normal and decided to act crazy instead, and they locked him up because he went too far. And he's mad at them, Jamie grinned, drinking his pint as I inhaled various dodging multicolored spacecraft on the screen. I laughed. Yeah, if you like. Oh, I don't know. Maybe he really is crazy. Maybe I am. Maybe everyone is. Or at least all of my family. Now you're talking. I looked at him for a second, then smiled. It does occur to me sometimes. My dad's an eccentric. I suppose I am too. I shrugged, concentrated on the space battle again, but it doesn't bother me. There are a lot madder people about the place. Jamie sat in silence for a while as I went from screenful to screenful of whining craft. Finally, my luck ran out and they caught me. I took up my pint as Jamie settled in to blast a few of the gaudy formations. I looked at the top of his head as he bent to the task. He was starting to go bald, though I knew he was only 23. He reminded me again of a puppet. with his out of proportion head and stubby little arms and legs waggling with the exertion of punching the fire button and jiggling the positioning joystick. Yeah, he said after a while, still attacking the oncoming craft, and a lot of them seem to be politicians and presidents and things. What? I said, wondering what he was talking about. The matter people. A lot of them seem to be leaders of countries and or religions or armies. The real loonies. Yeah, I suppose, I said thoughtfully, watching the battle on the screen upside down. Or maybe they're only the same ones. After all, they're the ones with all the power and riches. They're the ones who get everybody else to do what they want them to do, like die for them and work for them and get them into power and protect them and pay taxes and buy them toys. And they're the ones who'll survive another big war in their bunkers and tunnels. So given things being the way they are, who's to say they're not loonies because they don't do things the way Joe Putner thinks they ought to? That they ought to be done. If they thought the same way as Joe Putner, they'd be Joe Putner, and somebody else would be having all the fun. Survival of the fittest. Yeah, survival of the... Jamie drew his breath in sharply and pulled the stick so hard he almost fell off his stool, but he managed to dodge the darting yellow bolts that had driven him into the corner of the screen. Nastiest. He looked up at me and grinned quickly before hunching over the controls again, and I drank, nodded. If you like, if the nastiest survive, then that's our tough shit. That's our tough shit. Us being all the Joe Putners, Jamie said. Yeah, everybody. The whole species. If we're really so bad and so thick that we actually used all those wonderful H-bombs and neutron bombs on each other, then maybe it's just as well we do wipe ourselves out before we can get into space and start doing horrible things to other races. You mean, well, to be space invaders? Yeah, I laughed and rocked back on my stool. That's it. That's really us. I laughed again and tapped the screen above a formation of red and green flapping things, just as one of them, peeling off to the side of the main pack, dived down, firing at Jamie's craft, missing it with its shots, but clipping him with one green wing as it disappeared off the bottom of the screen. Also, so that Jamie's craft detonated in a blaze of flashing red and yellow. Shit, he said, sitting back. He shook his head. I sat forward and waited for my craft to appear.